I mean, my favorite types of movies to make are, I've always called them fantasy films because all my films, whether it's a film for children or a film for adults, what they all have in common is that they're all made up. They're all imaginary worlds. You know, like if you see Desperado or Once Upon a Time in Mexico, that Mexico in my movies doesn't exist. It's a completely made up world and rules. I like the freedom of that. I like creating my own set of rules, my own worlds, and making them feel like there is a reality because of the performances and making it feel like it's grounded, but they're completely made up. I think it's partly because I started as a cartoonist, so they have a lot of humor and a lot of fantasy to them. That's my favorite, to just tell the story that almost feels like it's a dream, like it's not really possible. Like you see a movie like Planet Terror and you wonder, how does she fire that gun on her leg? I mean, you don't really need to know. At the moment, it makes sense the moment you see it. I love music. I love music and movies. I'm still just been doing a lot of my own, music in my movies, and it's not because I don't want to work with a composer. Usually I can't afford one. That's usually the when you go over schedule and shooting, the first place they take money from to pay for the shoot is from the music budget. So by the time I get to the end of a movie, I'm usually out of music money, so it means I have to make the music. Well, I enjoy the freedom that special effects allows today. I mean, it used to be, how are we going to do this effect? Is it possible to do this idea? Now anything is possible. So I do like that freedom. But then, kind of when you can do anything, then what do you do? There's a great creativity and freedom in limitation when you're limited. So sometimes you have to kind of create your own limitations so that you're free within those boundaries, whether it be realism or whatever you're trying to seek. I am the photographer, so I am the cinematographer. So I am the lens that the audience is seen through. And I always want, in my movies, anything, whether it's a dog, a child, a woman, or a man, to look their best, because they represent the audience, and I want people to fall in love with every character in a way where they don't even know why, Remember when I shot George Clooney in Dusk Till Dawn, he was trying to transition from television to movies. And I knew that he would just look more powerful on screen if I was always sitting and he was always standing. And I'm always looking up at him, like the audience is looking up to him. I came from a family of 10 kids, so I was the third oldest, so I helped raise most of them. And my comic strip was based on my brothers and sisters. My first films starred my brothers and sisters, and they were my crew, because they're all just sitting around anyway, so we said, let's make a movie together. And those movies that we did were early versions of Spy Kids. They were where I got the idea to do Spy Kids. The theme of family comes up a lot, in my movies, just because I think that's just, I was just surrounded by so much family all growing up. That was my worldview. 5 boys, 5 girls, my parents are still together. I have 5 kids of my own. When you write, and I wrote a lot of my own scripts, so they always say you end up writing what you know, and what I knew the most, that was most important to me, was family. So I ended up always putting that somehow into any movie that I did, because it's what made it relevant for me to spend the time away from my family to make a film. I'd want to make it on a theme that, even unconsciously, that meant something to me. So I think that's why it goes back to family.